Why is it that so many good men find themselves constantly asking, "What do you want to do tonight?" only to be met with that frustrating response, "I don't know, whatever you want," and then, somehow, whatever you want turns into disappointment when you actually choose. You're trying to be considerate, you're trying to make her happy, but somehow this approach keeps backfiring, leaving both of you frustrated and disconnected. What if I told you that constantly asking her what she wants is actually undermining the very connection you're trying to build? Think about the last time you were with someone who couldn't make a decision. How did it make you feel? Probably a bit anxious, maybe even slightly annoyed. There's something deeply unsettling about being with someone who won't take the lead when it's their turn to do so. Now imagine feeling that way all the time. Here's the uncomfortable truth many of us have to face. The habit of constantly deferring to her preferences isn't considerate. It's actually a subtle form of abdicating responsibility. It places the burden of decision-making entirely on her shoulders while you get to avoid the risk of making the wrong choice. You were probably taught that being a good partner means always asking what she wants, that considerate men put her desires first. But what if that advice is fundamentally flawed? What if constantly asking, "What do you want?" is actually making her trust you less, not more? When you continually ask her what she wants, you're communicating something unintentional but powerful, that you don't know how to lead in the relationship, that you're unsure of yourself, that you're more afraid of making the wrong choice than you are committed to creating a meaningful experience. And here's the thing, leadership isn't about control, it's not about always getting your way or ignoring her needs. True leadership in a relationship is about taking responsibility for creating experiences and connections. It's about paying attention to who she is and what brings her joy, then acting on that knowledge with confidence. She doesn't want a partner who constantly needs directions. She wants someone who's observant enough to understand her, confident enough to make decisions, and flexible enough to adjust when needed. So what's happening when you keep asking what she wants? You're unintentionally cultivating her disappointment. Every time you deflect a decision back to her with whatever you want, you're missing an opportunity to show that you've been paying attention to her preferences, her joys, the little things that light her up. You're missing the chance to demonstrate that you can take all that information and translate it into action. I know this might feel counterintuitive. You've been told your whole life that asking is the respectful thing to do, but there's a profound difference between being attentive to her needs and constantly deferring decisions to her. One demonstrates care, the other demonstrates uncertainty. So what's the alternative? How do you lead in a way that feels good for both of you? First, start paying deeper attention, not just to her words, but to her reactions. When have you seen her most relaxed, most excited? What experiences have created that sparkle in her eyes? Which restaurants made her lean forward in her seat? What activities had her talking about them days later? This isn't about memorizing a list of preferences. It's about understanding the patterns that bring her joy. It's about noticing not just what she likes, but why she likes it. Second, start making decisions from this place of knowledge, not arbitrary choices, but intentional ones that reflect your understanding of her. I'm taking you to that new Mediterranean place tonight. I know how much you loved the last one we tried, and this one has that outdoor seating you enjoy. Notice the difference. You're not demanding or controlling. You're demonstrating that you've been paying attention, that you understand what lights her up, and that you're confident enough to act on that understanding. The third step is the hardest but most important. Be willing to accept the risk of being wrong. Sometimes your choice won't land quite right. That's not failure, it's information. When you make a decision that doesn't resonate, you learn something valuable about her that you didn't know before. The truth is, she'd rather you make an imperfect choice with confidence than constantly defer to her out of fear of being wrong. Imperfect action creates clarity. Indecision creates frustration. Think about it. We're all drawn to people who can lead with both confidence and consideration. There's something deeply attractive about someone who pays close attention to who we are, then uses that information to create experiences they believe we'll enjoy. It shows a level of care that goes far beyond the surface question of what do you want. Now, let's be very clear about something. Leading doesn't mean ignoring her input or dismissing her preferences. It doesn't mean making every decision or refusing to collaborate. And it certainly doesn't mean forcing your preferences onto her. True leadership in a relationship is responsive, not rigid. It's about creating a framework where both of you can thrive, not imposing a structure that only works for you. Sometimes leading means explicitly asking for her input on specific options you've already considered. I'm thinking either the art festival downtown Or that hiking trail we've been wanting to try, which sounds better for Saturday. This approach still demonstrates thoughtfulness and direction while inviting her participation. Other times, leading means recognizing when she does have a strong preference and honoring it. If she says, "I've been craving sushi all week," the confident response isn't to override her, but to say, "Perfect, I know just the place," and take her to the best sushi restaurant you can find. The key is that you're no longer placing the entire burden of decision-making on her shoulders. You're no longer making your indecision her problem to solve. And here's something fascinating that happens when you start leading this way. She begins to trust your judgment more, not just about restaurants or weekend plans, but about bigger things too. She sees evidence that you can navigate complexity while keeping her needs in mind, and that creates a deeper sense of security. When she feels that security, something beautiful happens. She relaxes. She opens up. She becomes more willing to follow your lead because she knows your leadership includes her well-being. And paradoxically, when she feels secure in your ability to lead, she becomes more comfortable expressing her own desires and preferences. The communication actually improves because it's no longer weighted down by the frustration of indecision. So what does this look like in practice? It means transitioning from "what do you want to do tonight" to "I'm taking you to that new place by the river tonight. Wear something comfortable." It means shifting from "where do you want to go this weekend" to "I've planned a day trip to that coastal town you mentioned wanting to explore. We leave Saturday morning." Yes, this approach requires more from you. It requires observation, thoughtfulness, planning, and the willingness to occasionally be wrong. But that investment creates something powerful, a dynamic where both of you feel seen, understood, and valued. Remember, she's not looking for perfection. She's not expecting you to read her mind or always make the ideal choice. What she's looking for is evidence that you're engaged enough to try, that you're willing to take the information you have about who she is and translate it into action. That willingness to step up and lead, even with the risk of occasionally missing the mark, communicates something profound, that you value the relationship enough to invest yourself fully in it. So stop asking her what she wants all the time. Start showing her that you've been paying attention to who she is. Make decisions that reflect your understanding of her. Create experiences that you believe will resonate with her. Lead with both confidence and consideration, and watch as she begins to follow that lead, not out of obligation, but out of trust. Trust that you see her. Trust that you understand her. Trust that your leadership includes her happiness. This isn't about control or dominance. It's about creating a dynamic where both of you can thrive, where she feels secure in your ability to lead and you feel confident in your ability to create experiences that bring you both joy. The next time you're tempted to ask, "What do you want to do?" Zrenia, think about what you know about her. Consider what experience might light her up based on everything you've learned. Then make a decision and lead with confidence. She may not always follow. She may sometimes have other ideas, but she'll always respect the fact that you tried, that you paid enough attention to make an informed choice, and that you cared enough to take the risk of being wrong. And in that respect, in that recognition of your willingness to lead with both confidence and care, you'll find the connection you've been looking for all along.